Hello, my name is Ani Manchella, and I'll be going through how I scripted out the Sekiro's grappling system. So first, let's break down the actual grappling system. The grappling system is pretty complex, to say the least. I have some footage up right now, like showcasing what it's like. But the grappling mechanic comes from Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It's a way to connect different areas, traverse to places, and add verticality to locations. It's also used to close distance to an opponent during combat. I think this is really interesting because it allows for really fast paced level design and traversal. It also adds a complex layer to finding out where to go, so you're not just looking around for linear paths, but also verticality. And jumping off of cliffs sometimes can result in a good thing. In addition, it also allows a player to remain and stay aggressive in combat, which this combat system really encourages for. Since Sekiro is a parry-based action RPG, being more aggressive in your combat is extremely important. So, how does the grappling work in game? Well, it works whenever the player looks at a grappling point and then presses an input to grapple to the location. It's pretty simple, to be honest. The grapple point will be shown as outlined in white, and then when close enough, it'll become fully green, indicating that it's fully grappleable. This is important to the game, as certain boss fights, level design, and enemies, again, all use this mechanic to keep the gameplay fast-paced and keep the player on their toes. So the system starts on event tick, not on the input. On the event tick, we're basically checking for the grappling points, and then we check if that actually has a grappling point. So all we're doing is sending out a multi-sphere trace, like I mentioned before. We get an array of all the grappling points, and then we go from there. If we don't find any, we just deactivate the grapple point refs. There's nothing there. We just turn them all off. That's basically it. And then we go into the finding whichever one is closest to us, and that is also in the multi-sphere trace as well. And then from there, we can see which one it is. And then we go into the in-grappling animation that's set in the set actor rotation after launch. But first, you gotta check for if there's an actual grappling point to grapple to, and that's on the actual input. And then we set actor after launch. The setting actor after launch, we just launch the character, moving with grapple, and then we set the in-grappling animation, moving with grapple as 3 falls, and we get making sure we're setting all those things, and then make sure we actually land at the grappling point, because the grapple point is plus 110, because the grapple point itself in the viewport is at 0, 0. So if it's at 0, 0, then we'd want to make sure that it's actually being properly scaled to when we land on it, so not just colliding with it and just falling right through. And then we get the rope length, which is a dynamic cable that I have, and then we use the use in the grapple point. This basically plays the animation for the node, which is the widget, not for the player, but for the widget. And then it does the reactivate, basically telling that it's not used anymore after 2 seconds. And then we go into the picking which animation to play. So if I'm in the air, I do a specific type of animation. If I'm on the ground, I do another specific type of animation. I've got the animations online. I might as well use them all. And then, so there's that one. And then if I'm in the actual grapple point, let's go to that one really quick. In the grapple point, I have the landing zone, which is basically here. And then I have the detection sphere right here. So this is the sphere I'm trying to detect. Then I have a quick widget as well. This widget basically allows me to display how far and close I am dynamically. This box right here, this collision box, is basically here to say if I am able to detect it or not, basically. And what that basically does is I overlap this on itself. So if I'm overlapping with this, I turn the collision off. If I'm no longer overlapping with it, then I turn the collision back on, which is query only. Because it's a sphere trace. I use a bunch of math in this. I can show how much math, animation stuff right here. A lot of stuff right there. I also did a really cool thing where I used the actual curves, like actual graphs. I took advanced math, so I might as well use it. So this how fast you can see how I travel when I'm in the air itself from grappling from the air. So let's actually try this out. So here I am a average distance away, so it's filled up partly. I go closer, it fills up even more. When I'm finally able to grapple, it turns green. When I go further away, it goes away. So that's pretty simple, pretty good stuff. So I can launch from the ground, simply like that, pretty simple. But I can also launch from the air. So I can also go like this. And it's also fairly simple. Now, the widget here, you can no longer see, but I could see down there. So what's the difference? What changed? What happened? Well, simply because I'm in that collision box over there. and then here I'm still in that collision box. But over here, I'm no longer in that collision box. So that's how it basically works. And the way I did this is because I wanted to do it modular. So if I wanted to click on one of these, widgets, all I would do on one of these assets, all I would do is click on the actor, and then I can go into the widget, into the details panel, and then change the detection zone around. So let's say I wanted this to actually be a bit smaller. I could do that. Change it, move it. So now the end can actually be detected. Now this is pretty dumb sometimes because it's the same platform. Why would you want to do it? But sometimes you'd want to. Now Unreal Engine only does box and sphere stuff. Other engines maybe, and I imagine Sekiro also has a dynamic box system where I can change the shape of the box itself so that I can dynamically cover more things all at once. I'm sure that's how Sekiro has their, that's how From Software has their engine set up. But for right now, this is the way I did it, and it works pretty well. So let's talk about some improvements that could be made. Firstly, I would not do all this natively on EventTick. I would definitely put a boolean of some kind in here. The first idea that came to mind was putting a boolean on the grappling point. I have a deactivate zone, why not have an activate zone as well? But then I realized it's a lot of collision, and I just didn't want to bog down performance. Now, EventTick does bog down performance, but there are other ways to bog down performance. And basically, I just wanted to make sure performance is not an issue here. The next thing I would do is in Sekiro, you can also use the grappling in order to launch yourself towards enemies or keep yourself going even after grappling. You don't just land, but you keep flying through the air. I would have liked to have done that, but it was so much easier to just make a landing zone for right now because that's really what I wanted to do. So that was something I would probably want to do and improve upon later. Although I imagine if there is no landing zone, then you just continue going, the launching still happens, and then you activate gravity afterwards. Something like that, since we're deactivating gravity in these functions. That's the way I would improve upon this. There's a lot of ways to improve this as well. The math, I think, is a lot, and I don't think I need that much math looking back on it. But however, it was a fun exercise to keep my math chops up there, and also keep in mind how programming itself works and how all of that comes together. So thank you guys for watching.